Yeah, see, if you're not playing metal, there is a lot more potential. Like if you get a Bollywood gig, you could be sorted for
Yeah.
a long time. If you want to teach music, if you want
Hmm.
to, play in a wedding band, those are all different kinds of musical avenues that are there. Maybe you want to be a
Yeah.
composer for, for like background scores.
Hmm.
In that case, yeah, you can rebel against your family, go out and start working. But it's always going to be easier if you have family support.
Yeah. Namaste and welcome to Music Mehfil India. Our guest today is the incredibly persistent Sahil Makhija, popularly known as the Demonstealer. You may also know him from the Headbanger's kitchen for his famous keto recipes. In today's conversation, we have covered a lot of the metal scene, how it has evolved over the past couple of decades, and what is the ground reality of making it in this scene. I'm Aruna Jade, and this is the story of music in India. You know, the first time I actually saw you live was Workshop. Workshop at Planet M, I think High Street Phoenix.
Ah, yes, High Street Phoenix. Yeah, yeah. And the quadrangle.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was
So,
one of our last shows actually.
why didn't Workshop continue?
Same problem as most bands, lineup changes,
Yeah.
then finding new members. Once you lose a very talented, skillful guitar player or other musician, it's hard to find people who can match that.
Yeah.
So when Devesh, who now plays in Sky Harbor, when he quit Workshop, we tried getting Daniel and we had Nishit filling in, but like to find a permanent member. And also I think Hamza and Aditya were starting to get more and more Bollywood gigs, so
Mm-hmm.
schedules, it just didn't make sense. And I think the novelty also of the band had worn off. Like, I don't think we were able to scale up and build a
Hmm.
bigger fan base, so it kind of stagnated. And everyone in the scene hated us in the industry side. So
What?
yeah, they didn't like us. Like, so we found it very difficult to get booked at venues and at festivals. Even though I know we were good at what we did, but
Yeah.
it's just like the college festivals. Yeah, okay, we kind of managed to book those, but all the NH7s and all the other festivals, like, yeah, not really our cup of tea. So I mean, and there's only so many places you can play. So all of that kind of just led to, like, let's just call it quits and end on a mediocre note since there was no high note to go out on.
Hmm.
And yeah, we just shut that chapter.
Yeah. But all of you are still active as full time musicians.
No, I mean, Devesh is a producer in the US, in LA.
Uh huh.
Hamza and Aditya Kadam play sessions for different artists.
Yeah.
Hamza also has a day job working with
Yeah.
Yash Raj, I think now,
Oh.
doing some artist related thing.
Mm.
Our old guitar player Raj, unfortunately, he passed away
Oh,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Riju is now a sports Kida writer doing
Yeah.
WWE interviews and writing on shows like The Walking Dead and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, I think most people who are playing in indie bands are not full time musicians,
Right.
and those that are generally playing in Bollywood.
Correct. Okay, so how did you get into metal and how did Demonic Resurrection come out?
So I started listening to metal in school.
Mm-hmm.
I actually heard Iron Maiden somewhere in the sixth standard. A
Uh-huh.
friend of mine gave me a tape. We were on a school trip and sitting in the third sleeper, and he gave me Iron Maiden, and I heard it and I was blown away. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't wrap my head around how powerful it sounded and how complex the riffs were, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Unfortunately, I never took that any further. That was just a one trip thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into pop music and techno and like the Mortal Kombat soundtrack
Mm-hmm.
and Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls. I was listening to all that stuff. And I think around the ninth standard, some of my friends were like, stop listening to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Here, take some Metallica and more Iron Maiden. And then I kind of started to get into metal once I started listening to those. And I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Mm.
And then I got into heavier and heavier stuff because I think around that time we started to get the internet in India. So I had a computer at home, and we would go on IRC, which was a chat room, and we'd try and download songs. And
Yeah.
yeah, just it started from there, and it's been like a obsession ever since.
And then Dia?
Oh yeah, DR was basically, again, once I started listening to metal, I kind of me and my friends from school, we were like, let's form a band after school. We'll all
Yeah.
learn instruments or whatever. So started learning guitar. I said I'll be the singer. I want to sing. I think there were like 12 of us who started learning different instruments and stuff, but only two of us were like, yeah, let's okay. We formed a band.
Yeah.
Didn't really work out. Everyone had different things to do, but I was like, I want to form a band. I'm going to call it Demonic Resurrection. I want to cover bands like Slayer and Death and Dimmu Borgir and all these bands I'm listening to. And for like 2 years in college, I used to be the guy who used to ask everyone, do you know any drummers? Do you know any drummers? And I reached a point where I was like, you know what? I had written songs, I had used Fruity Loops, I had recorded them, I was taught
Mm-hmm.
how to record by my friend who I formed my first band with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to go on stage now and play these songs with my desktop. I'll take my desktop to Raz Rhino, I'll set it up, I'll press spacebar and Fruity Loops will play and I'll play along and sing. I'd all set this all up with my drum teacher who was the drummer of Naked Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, cool or whatever. So then luckily, I ran into a school friend, Prashant Shah, who played in Exhumation and Scribe.
Mm-hmm.
And he had just come back from the States. He had a cool ESP guitar. He played really well. And he said, yeah, I'll play with you. Like, I'll join your band or whatever. And he got Aditya, who was also from my school, as was
Mm-hmm.
Prashant. And they both played guitar. And in Aditya's lane, there was a drummer called Yash, who Aditya had found because he obviously heard the drums.
Mm-hmm.
And Yash was a full on Dandiya drummer. Like he used to play at Navratri
Yeah.
shows, and he was like 16 years old.
Hmm.
He was a kid. We were 18, so we were
Hmm.
little, and they Aditya and Prashant were like 19. So he was like 16, young, and his parents were very orthodox. But somehow Aditya introduced him to Slayer, and he started practicing Slayer songs and all. So he became the drummer. And I had a friend who played keys, who was in my accounts tuition. He was the son of the late Vijay Arora, the actor,
Hmm.
Bollywood actor. So he
Mm-hmm.
was a full on Michael. His name was Farhad Arora.
Mm-hmm.
Full on play keys, Michael Jackson, sunglasses, DJ headphones, and all.
Yeah.
I said, can you just play for the show? And he said, okay, I'll play. I was like, okay, great. So that's how kind of the first version of DR was formed.
What year was
This was
this?
the year 2000.
Ah.
So I think it was, I had some exams or something. So around 15th of March, Aditya, Yash, and Prashant started jamming. They also changed some of the songs a little bit because they were like, yeah, this doesn't sound cool. We're going to rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 1st of April, Farad and I joined them and we started our rehearsal.
Was it death metal from the get go?
It was extreme metal, so there were mix of influences.
Mm.
Some gothic metal, some black metal, some death metal. Yeah,
And you said singing.
yeah. As in, I had to be this. I was going to be the singer. But
Right.
singer matlab growler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I
But
was, yeah, that was gonna be my question. Like, do you do a lot of clean vocals like throughout the?
yeah, I've always, so I think some of the bands that I really loved while I was getting into metal were like Fear Factory,
Mm-hmm.
Soilwork, and these bands had a lot of singing as well as the growling stuff. So I like
Mm-hmm.
that sort of mix of
Mix.
both. And I also listened to a lot of bands with singing. A lot of them were with female singers, though
Mm-hmm.
Nightwish, Tristania,
Oh yeah.
that whole gothic Lacuna Coil. And I always liked that contrast of voices, and it like kind of allows you to express a lot more. So in the beginning I did the singing, but the first four songs we did, I think there was only like one singing part,
Mm.
and I think I was not very good, so it was kind of like, okay, we got to get somebody else to sing. And that's when Nikita joined just shortly after. And we tried to maintain the female vocalist thing, but yeah, it was just very difficult because there was hardly anybody who actually sang and listened to this kind of music. And then eventually we went on to get guest vocalists for the singing sections, and eventually I reached a point where I was capable enough to be allowed to sing on the albums.
Okay. what do you think were the challenges, the opportunities in the metal scene as your project evolved?
I mean, there was nothing in the scene. It was a complete DIY, do it yourself, because there was no record companies that were going to sign you. There was no studio where you would have an engineer who understood the genre. There were no festivals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever was happening was just musicians doing things because they had to.
Yeah.
So even for me, like, I started recording my stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll start recording other bands as well. So I opened the studio. Same with the record label, same with our festival that we started.
Mm-hmm.
Even the first gig that we played was organized by me and my drum teacher.
Mm.
Like, we went to Raz and we booked it out. Because that way we were lucky that Raz said, okay, we don't care who's playing. You can come. Any band can come.
Yeah.
No discrimination. Any band can come. This is what we give you: 50% of the gate, 500 rupees of food after the show.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use our absolutely horrendous sound system if you like, or you hire your own sound and that's your problem.
Okay.
So we would hire sound from Romeo for 3,000 rupees.
Mm.
And entry used to be 100 bucks. So you needed to get like 30 people to come in.
Yeah, my
And then you'd
sister was
make,
one of those people,
yeah.
bunking college and attending gigs in Raz.
Yeah, I know, not 100. We would get 50 rupees out of the 100.
Yeah.
Correct. So we I think, but in those days there was like a lot more people because there were fewer shows
Yeah.
and there was nothing else to do. So like you'd pack in like, and when Naked Earth played, so they packed in like 200 people, I think, at least.
Wow.
So yeah, that would be like a decent amount of money to at least give everyone something.
Hmm. So you mentioned the label. Was that how you got into forming your own label?
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much. Like I said, everything was DIY. So I mean, I sent my demos out to foreign labels, but most
uh-huh.
of the big ones would not even respond that they got it or anything.
Mm.
I had got an offer from some record label in Brazil, some small underground label, said, we'll put out your CDs. I was like, okay, cool. That time, no
Mm.
one was thinking of money, sales figures. I didn't know anything. So I was like, oh, great. Do what you want. I don't know if
Mm.
it came out. I don't know what they did with it. All I know is they sent
Right.
me like photos of the artwork and all, to just like, we're putting this artwork and all that. I was like, great, cool. And we did get like messages from fans in Brazil and stuff where the label was based. So maybe it did manage to do something, but nothing significant. But yeah, so I put out the first album myself. I bought CDRs, Kodak Gold,
Yeah.
and I burned them on my computer. Got a 6 rupee sticker made. In fact, I
Yeah.
think the first version I made, there was no sticker. Also, I got a Xerox copy of the artwork I made on, again, some basic photo software that I downloaded,
Mm-hmm.
and did a Xerox. And then me and my mom sat and cut them out and stuck it
Yeah.
on the CD thing that came with the Kodak Gold.
Yeah, I've been part of that
Yeah,
process.
so we made like 50,
Mm.
60 CDs, took them to
Yeah.
Bangalore, sold them. But then when we were doing the second album, I was like, I mean, everyone was like, we need to do this professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So let's invest and press the CD.
Yeah.
Like, get a glass master made and duplicate it properly, get it printed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm doing all this stuff now, and it came out properly, and I was very happy with it. And also, then it opens up doors abroad because smaller record labels, they're like, oh, we'll trade with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you send us 10 of your CD, and we'll send you 10 of our CDs, and you can sell those there, and we'll sell these here.
Okay.
And a lot of labels are like, no CDR. So if you're not a professional CD, they won't trade with you.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, I've done this. It's great.
Again, what year is
This
this?
is 2005 approximately.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is after the black and white Xerox got upgraded to color Xerox and CD sticker happened.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then finally there was a big gap where, the band kind of had a big lineup change and all that. And then we were like, okay, let's do this professionally. And then I was like, yeah, I've done this. It's working out well. I sold the CDs, managed to trade.
Uh-huh.
Great, let me sign some more bands. And that's kind of how the label started.
And okay, so what were the various tasks you had to do as a label owner?
No, everything. Right from the A&R of finding the bands, communication with the artists, making the contracts, getting them signed
And the trades you mentioned, they were between your
in
label
and
and
other
other
labels
label.
all over the world. So I would go online, find labels, send them emails. Hey, do you guys do trades? Can we trade? I've got these artists. This is my catalog. Like literally everything, right from going to the guy to get it done, checking the masters, shipping every order out that came in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was pretty much, yeah, every single step of the way, whether it's even artwork, layouts, all that stuff I had to learn and do on the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff, I was also the audio engineer because I was recording some of the bands on the label. So we did Fine Tune Disaster in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
which was Bhayanak Moth, Scribe, Skin Cold, Bitch Slap, and I think I did one Amidst the Chaos.
Mm.
And PDV had one guest song, and I had one of my own singles.
Okay.
So I
So
think
was it like a
it was a
mixed?
mixed CD. It was like
Yeah.
a split CD. So Bitch Slap and Skin Cold and Amidst the Chaos all recorded with me.
Mm-hmm.
Scribe, I think I mixed and mastered, if I'm not mistaken. Bhayanak Moth, I can't remember. I think they did their own. PDV also did their own, and I recorded mine as well. So I was also doing that, the
Mm.
audio engineering part. So yeah, basically pretty much any job that was there in the label was mine to do.
And in these trades, what all international artists did you
Oh, some really
bring in?
obscure ones. I don't even remember half of them. I won't remember most of the names. Yeah, because it was like I was dealing with at least like 20, 30 labels, and each one
Mm-hmm.
would, so some would say like, okay, we'll give you only one band's 10 CDs.
Yeah.
Some would be like, here's our catalog, pick whatever 10 CDs you want. So I would put the lists out on forums, and people are like, oh, I want to order this and this and this. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So then I add that, and I tell them it'll take 2 months to come or whatever.
Mm.
So yeah, I think there was one band, Mournful Congregation, Japanese band.
Mm-hmm.
So there were few of them. I mean, I Aralu from the Middle East somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of lots of different. Sometimes they'd even trade with bands probably. But again, this is all like really long time back. So I have to dig into my archives to see the names of the bands that I managed to bring down.
I read licensed internationally renowned acts.
Ah, yes, that is the little later on.
Uh-huh.
So that is when, in around 2009, Behemoth's management
Mm-hmm.
got in touch with me and said, would you like to license their new album?
Oh.
So that was the first big artist. License means I had to actually print the CDs here and sell them here, not trade with them,
Okay.
because they were the management, they weren't the record label. And Behemoth is signed to, I think, two of the biggest labels globally, Metal Blade and Nuclear Blast. And
Hmm.
all these big labels, they don't do trades.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, it sounds interesting, but like, I need to do something special and I need to price it differently. So I said, I'll do a black box with a poster and a sticker. Are you okay with that? They said, fine, do it.
Hmm.
I anyway paid them all the royalty in advance, and I went and I printed 1,000 copies of Behemoth's Evangelion,
Hmm.
which I continued to give out free with every order till like literally 4 years ago or something. So I managed to sell a good like 300-400 copies initially. I think it was priced at 400 rupees at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely black box, beautiful poster of the band inside, sticker with the logo, and their
Yeah.
artwork and their CD is amazing anyway. So good music, but
Mm-hmm.
the Indian audience is not a big Behemoth fan, at least not with purchasing power.
Uh-huh.
So sold some 300-400 CDs, I think, and then about 600 of them over the years. I think at some point it just became like, oh, you come for this show, you get a free CD. Oh, you order this T-shirt of mine, you get a free CD. Oh, 50% discount on this CD. So like, I did like it was a lot of hard work to push that, and I didn't learn my lesson there because in 2012, I think when Nuclear Blast, I was again talking to them
Mm-hmm.
for something, and they were like, "Do you want to put out the new Demo Borgir album?"
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Okay, why not?" I was like, but this time I'll make 500 CDs. I won't make 1,000.
Hmm.
Make 500 and I'll make 200 of them into this beautiful box with even more things like certificate of authenticity, hand
Hmm.
numbered, this, that. They said, okay, cool. And I said, I also do t-shirts. They said, okay. So we did, I think, 200 t-shirts because that's the minimum print
Was it the
run.
one with the woman sitting on a throne?
No, no, no. This
Okay.
is at the Abrahadabra t-shirt. It's like a face mask type thing.
Okay.
So I printed the t-shirt, sold out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the demo CDs, I think I managed to sell maybe 300 in total of the 500, and again 200 over the years. Like, oh, you're buying a CD of mine, here's a free demo CD. So yeah, and then I was like, yeah,
But 2012, right? Yeah.
2012, yeah. So around just immediately after that, once I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
the sales and all, I was like, I'm done with this record label business. I think
So it's not active anymore.
it's only their namesake for my project. So
Mm.
I will use it to release my projects.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That was quite something. But okay, so if you had to do it all over today, what would you do differently?
With the label,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Similar opportunities, but okay, different formats. Like today, no CDs are happening, so.
I don't know. I don't know if I would take up an offer like that today.
Mm.
Like, I don't think I'd ever want to get into the label business again. But like, if I had to go back in time and if I had the knowledge I did, then I would have probably found someone to help me scale up the label as a business. That would be
Mm.
one option, because I'm not a scale up kind of guy. So the whole label was me, one person running it literally from day one. If you're
Mm.
running a label, you need to probably have an investor, scale up a little bit. You need to take a risk, which I'm not very good at.
Mm.
So I'm more of a like, be safe on the ground and not try and fly, when you can't.
You're more of a creator.
Yeah, and I'm
Mm.
not a risk taker. Like, there are creators who are risk takers, but for me, I need to make sure that I've got my finances sorted. I can't risk too much of it. But there are people who'll throw the all their money into one thing, and
Mm.
sometimes that is what you need to be successful, because then you have nothing to fall back on. So you have to,
Mm.
it's literally do or die kind of situation.
Yeah.
So I think that is probably something that has held me back, but it's okay. That's who I am.
Very nice. So, okay, how do you balance your multiple roles as a chef, as an entrepreneur, as a musician, as essentially you're managing your own band as well, right? All your
Yeah.
projects. How do you balance so
I
many roles?
I think it's just I basically designed my life around the band and the music,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much what it has been for the last 20 odd years.
So that's the pivot point,
The
right?
pivot
Everything.
point is later, much
Uh-huh.
like a few years back, but
Okay.
largely that's what I did. So when I dropped out of college, I got a
What
job.
were you doing? What
I
were you
Well,
studying?
I started out with electronics because I didn't get computers, which is what I wanted to study. And for some reason, I was supposed to tell the lady when I was submitting my form that I wanted computers. And for that reason, I got electronics, because I didn't verbally tell her, though it was written on the form.
Mm.
Anyway, I flunked my first year. Also, was music was kind of like more into listening to music and more into like practicing guitar or singing or writing songs. So I was not very interested in the studies anymore.
Mm.
And then I flunked my FYJC. Then I did shifted to commerce because I was like, yeah, I don't do this. I managed to pass the 12th somehow. And then in the middle of BCom, I was like, yeah, I haven't done any projects. Everything is going over my head. I don't see the point of this. So I'm out of here.
What college were you
I
in for
was in
BCom?
Jehin College.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sindhi quota. So that's why I was like, take advantage.
Yeah.
I had like a whole career charted out. It's like, okay, do well in the boards, get into Jehin College computers
Mm.
with Sindhi quota. Even if you're not in the 90s, you'll get in. And then do master, then go to Thadumal Shahani College, where again I'll get in because of Sindhi quota. So I don't have to be like the topper, which I would not have done anyway. And then I can go to America and do my masters for 2 years. It was a full
Right.
plan which I had. Of course, all of that went to shit.
Yeah.
Once I got into metal, I was like, yeah, not interested in anything else. So I dropped out of BCom and immediately got a job in a studio working as an assistant, no pay, slowly got paid.
Hmm.
But I always made sure that I was working in places where I had the ability to also practice music,
Hmm.
play with the band, take leave. So my boss was Farhad Wadia, the guy behind Independence Rock and other
Yeah.
concerts. I was like, great, he understands where I'm coming from. So that was that first job. Then when I was working with Fatados as well, I made sure that they knew what I do and that I need offs for my band and shows and all.
Hmm.
So I've always had some kind of work scene where it's flexible,
Mm-hmm.
so I could devote time to other things, and that's it. Because that's thing is, people assume that being in a band takes a lot of time. It
Yeah.
actually didn't, because you have to depend on four other people, and four other people have jobs. So only when everyone is free and you can meet for a Sunday jam or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's, you always have plenty of free time. That's why I had so many bands. I was in Workshop,
Mhm.
Reptilian Dead, Demonic Resurrection. I formed Hellwind also. Just because there's, I mean, I don't get daily time from everyone. So it's like, okay, you guys are once a week, you are once a week, you are once a week. And yeah, just work all the time. I never
Mm.
took a holiday. Just that's all I did. I never moved out. I stayed with my parents. So
Mm-hmm.
didn't spend time doing other things.
Yeah. And so how did when did Headbanger's Kitchen figure in?
So Headbangers Kitchen kind of started in 2010, the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is, I mean, food is something that doesn't really leave your life, because you have to eat. So I've always been cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I got my first camera phone, I took a picture and uploaded my recipe on Facebook Notes, and I labeled it Demonic Cookery, because
Mm.
everything has to be
Demonic.
demonic and has to market the band as well. So even if you're
Mm.
coming for cooking, you'll be
Mm.
like, Demonic Cookery, what is that? Oh, I'm in Demonic Resurrection. That's, oh, demonic, what is that? Let me listen to it. So there's always a everything, like I said, that was the focus of my life, the band.
Mm.
Every single thing was to bring attention to the band in some way. So even my other interests will at some point come back here. So started making these Facebook notes, did it for 3 years. I think by that time broadband connection had come into India.
Yeah.
YouTube was starting to get watched more regularly. I was watching cool food shows on that. I was like, I should film my recipes next time. So
Mm.
when DR did our first music video with Srinivas Sundarajan,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, can you film my cooking video for me? He's like, I can do it, but do something more interesting. No, what is a cooking video?
Mm.
So then we sat down and conceptualized Headbangers Kitchen as a show where I would invite a musician or a band, make a dish inspired
Yeah.
by them, and then feed it to them after interviewing them. And that's kind of how it was born. Mephisto, the keyboard player of DR, helped me name
Yeah.
the show. He came up with the name Headbangers Kitchen. And that's how that started.
What is Mephisto's actual name?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, so more about Headbanger's Kitchen. So what year was this?
This was, so we filmed the first episode in 2010 when I got Nerfcell, or when Nerfcell came down to play in India.
Uh-huh.
And we released it in March 2011, the first episode.
Okay.
And I did about 7 episodes with Vas, after which he was like, yeah, this is too. So he basically was running like a company. So they
Mm-hmm.
were filming, editing, and he's like, this is too much work for us, and we're not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to sell it to travel channels, to Reliance and all, but nobody was interested.
Yeah.
Beef, pork, English, all the things that don't work in India. So
Mm.
yeah, they were like, yeah, we can't keep doing this, so
Mm.
tata, bye bye.
Mhm.
And I started then looking for people, and I bought lights. I tried to do everything DIY. So I did that for like 4 years. I even crowdfunded the final season. We raised like 2 lakhs
Wow.
for the show. um yeah, but the thing was, I was like, I'm like, I'm crowdfunding my music albums, I'm crowdfunding this. I feel like it's the same people that are there. I feel like there's just like too many things crowdfunding is, and I'd rather spend this time and get the same investment from fans for the music stuff.
Hmm.
So I was like, I'm done with this now. I'm gonna just shoot in my kitchen. If I feel like, if I'm in the mood, I'll put up the camera, I'll film alone. Because before this, we would move all the furniture from my living room, bring the gas stove out, get a separate stove from
Hmm.
there, put up lights, 2 cameras, audio, everything, the works. So I was like, this is too much work. I'm just gonna put my camera up in the kitchen, film. If it's nice, it's nice. Whatever, I don't care. So I did that for a while, and then I was on the keto diet. And once I started making pizza out of cauliflower, I was like, I got to film this. And I was just right time, right place. There was a big gap in the US keto market because it was
Uh-huh.
picking up there,
Mm-hmm.
but there weren't many YouTube channels making recipe videos. And that too with decent video quality.
Right. Yeah.
Most of them that were there looked like they'd been shot in some dungeon or something.
Mm.
Bad audio, bad lighting, bad everything. So people just like my channel just suddenly just started jumping up and up and up and grew like crazy.
So this is international audience,
Yeah,
largely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had about 40 to 50% of my audience was from the US.
And so when you did crowdfunding, it was these people as well?
No, no,
Ex-
crowdfunding was the mostly metal scene people who used to follow my channel.
Right.
So the channel never really grew beyond that metal audience. So it's the same with even I had a podcast back in the day on YouTube. I
Yeah.
did it for like 10, 15 episodes. That also only the Indian audience, and it when you do it, everyone's excited. Oh wow, podcast amazing! That then the views just drop down
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
after 3, 4 episodes. I was like, just done with all this.
Ignition. Tell me more about the keto bit.
Right. So actually, it was Aditya Kadam, the workshop bass player, who started doing the keto diet.
Yeah.
And I told him, bro, you're gonna die. You're eating butter and like meat, and where's all the healthy stuff? He's like, no, no, I've done. It's fine. There's like a science behind it or whatever. I was like, okay, be careful. But he lost 30 kilos in like hardly any time, no
Yeah.
exercising.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, dude, amazing, but you're gonna die. Then my wife, Dipti, she saw this and she was like, bro, I hate exercising, as did I. I'm doing this. So she dived into the research and she started it. I told her, be careful, you're gonna die. It's like, this is dangerous stuff.
You sunshine.
Yeah, I know. They call me the dream killer. But yeah, she did it. She lost 12 kilos in 3 months. I was like, oh, I got to get on this train now. So I was like, okay, I'm also going to start. And she explained the science to me. And then I started reading up, watching videos, started making videos. I kind of realized, okay, this makes sense. And I did it. And I suddenly started to see growth in the channel, comments like make more videos. In fact, I finished my 3 months of keto also and videos. And then I started doing vegan videos. But like the keto videos were still growing, and I was signed to this one company that kind of handles your YouTube channel.
Uh-huh.
So they had joined somewhere along the way, and they used to keep telling me do this, do that. I was like, I'm not interested in being a YouTuber. So anyway, I said, listen, guys, I'm done with y'all. Let's close the contract. So they're like, okay, cool. We'll give you your payout. So I got for 5 years of Headbanger's Kitchen. I got a check of $98.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what we had earned in 5 years on Headbanger's Kitchen.
I mean, that's obviously not right.
So I mean, we would have lost some money because of all the music copyright. So like the biggest video at that point was the Lamb of God video, which was 50,000 views, which I got probably nothing of because the music was copyrighted and the money went to the label and still goes to the label. Um, but it would not have been much more. Maybe been $200, maybe 300. Because even now, if I go to my other channels and I see I'm making maybe $30 a year. Because unless you're making like in the 100,000 views a month category, you're not even going to get anything substantial.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, shut this down. Okay, great, $98, superb. Let's move on with life. Next month, $100. What? Is that real? Oh, $100 from YouTube. Great, amazing. The month after that, 150. Damn, this
So
is
what
good.
was happening?
The growth was happening. The keto recipes were picking up. People were watching. More American people are watching. So payouts are also higher. And then went up 250, 350, 500, 600, 700. I'm like, okay, thank you, Fatados. I quit. So yeah, it just grew. And like in that first year itself, I went from like 5,000 subscribers, which took 5 years to build, to like 100,000 in less than a year.
So let's get this straight. You started Headbanger's Kitchen,
Yeah.
the demonic cookery, to get attention to demonic resurrection.
I mean, that was the back manifesto. May it's written at the back somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an expression of my food, and I wanted to, make a show, and I wanted to interview bands. But that little bit is always
Yeah.
there in the back of the mind that this is also gonna be good for my music promotion. Like,
Yeah.
but that was not like why I started. I was not like, oh, great way to promote the band is this. No, I was like, I want to film my videos.
Yeah.
Vas was like, let's do it in a different way. I was like, this is a great idea for a show. And here is the additional little bonus for me for working for free and not getting paid and putting all the effort is that at the end, hopefully somebody or the other will check out my band at the end of it.
Yeah. and but then the thing you were doing to bring attention to the other thing,
Yeah.
that thing in itself was
Yeah.
pretty awesome, more lucrative.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no, there's no comparison, obviously,
Yeah.
but
No, I mean, look, it became, see, as a creative person, for me, even making recipes was fun. Taking all these recipes and making them keto was really fun. And at the end of the day, as a human being, when you see people loving what you do and leaving you like insane comments, uh, it you're just like, yeah, you're like, inspired to do it, right? Like if you were writing a song and putting it out, and the first song you get 10 comments, you'll be like, wow, amazing. If you put out a next song, there are 200 comments, you'll just be like, wow. Even if you have not necessarily thought of this as something you were going to do, you're like, oh, I just want to make music on the side after I have some free time. But the moment you get that validation and you get people loving your stuff, you're just inspired to do more of it. Like that's the driving factor. So that's kind of what also pushed me towards doing more of it. And I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm doing keto myself. Might as well just keep churning out the videos.
lovely. So, speaking of promotions, what was the difference in promoting Headbangers Kitchen versus promoting the band?
So I didn't have to promote Headbangers Kitchen. I mean, in the
Yeah, I
beginning, yes. When I
figured. Yeah.
started it, it was like same like the music. Post on Facebook, post on Orkut, post whichever social media is there,
Yeah.
message people, all that. Once the keto video started, I didn't have to promote anything because just put the video out, comments, likes,
Right.
shares, everything's happening. I don't even know who's watching. I'm not connected to this community. Because the metal community, all the music, you're connected to everybody, whether it's your peers, whether it's your fans, they're all adding you on Facebook. Here I was like a completely, it was a different ecosystem only. There's no add friend button there. They just subscribe and you post and they respond. So it's a very
Right.
different space there. So I didn't know anybody who's watching. Like, I mean, I knew few people obviously, but then you develop a separate community here. So the videos just work. Like YouTube, the algorithm will show it to them or whatever. I didn't need to really do any promotion. I just probably cross post on Instagram or Facebook or something that chalo, new videos out, check it out.
Yeah. So, have you ever done paid ads?
Tons of them, yeah.
But only for the.
For every single thing I've ever done, there is a paid ad been done somewhere. But it's not been like, so for Headbangers Kitchen, I've done paid ads to promote my book,
Uh huh.
you know, like with the music also, it's to sell merch. Or sometimes it'll be to push a new song out or something.
Yeah.
But also Headbangers Kitchen, the advertising is again very different because it's a very competitive market. Way harder to actually get results on that, because if you're advertising like a diet related thing to an American audience or anywhere
Yeah.
international, you're paying 5 or 10x the amount that you would pay if you were doing it to an Indian audience. So that makes it almost unaffordable because you're then competing with international big brands and stuff.
And how does this compare with promoting music?
Well, music metal is a much smaller space. It's a larger audience.
Yeah,
That
it's a
is,
niche.
it's a
Yeah.
low budget thing in comparison. Because, like, if you're targeting metalhead specifically, you don't have much competition in terms of bidding on ads and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas with food, you definitely do. Like your McDonald's is not targeting your metalheads. Your KFC or your diet pills or whatever. It's mostly metal bands only. It's all the
Yeah.
metal bands who are advertising metal music now. And
Yeah.
record labels now have stepped into the picture as well, because even they realize they need to advertise bands and songs and all. So yeah, it's been fairly, I mean, it's a challenge in itself just to kind of learn again another skill of how to advertise, because the algorithms there, the functionality, the learning, the creating audiences, like it's a again, it's a whole ecosystem on its own.
Right.
So you need to find people who specialize in this, who are trained in this, and who are keeping up with all the updates in the advertising on social media, because unlike like your print ads or whatever, these are constantly evolving. So Facebook will make changes in how it will handle the pixel data. iPhone, Apple say you cannot track this user data anymore, so that changes a whole bunch of parameters. And how does that affect your advert? Who do you actually target? So like it's like learning a whole separate skill.
Right.
So I've worked with people, I've done it myself, and Yeah, right now I just hire people to do stuff. It's like because they spend their time doing that day in and day out. That's their job, so they understand it.
Yeah. Well, would you say, like, have you found it fruitful to do paid ads in for pushing music or a show or merch?
I mean, yes and no. I guess it depends. Like some stuff has worked, some stuff hasn't. Again, with social media, it's very hard to always sort of quantify the sales
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of it may not be an immediate thing. So if I'm sharing a song, yeah, I can say that yeah, I put 1,000 rupees and I got 50,000 hits on this song. That's what I
Yeah.
can quantify. But did that 50,000 hits result in any recurring listeners on Spotify?
Mm.
Did it result in any CDs or t-shirts being sold? There's only so much I can trace actually,
Yeah.
because also a lot of people, they may discover your music now, but they may in 6 months time realize they're a bigger fan then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a work in progress, you know. um yeah, I don't have a definite answer for that, unfortunately. Like, I can probably check each campaign in the back end and see. I know we've got some results. Definitely people have found Demon Stealer because of the ads, or Demonic Resurrection, and bought some merch as well because of that. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely has worked on some level.
What would you say to a metal band or any musician really who is coming up or who is not even at a scale at which you are, right? And it took you good 23 years to get there. So someone who is just starting out or even just 5 years into the game, how much do you think they should prioritize this sort of paid advertising marketing?
So I think again it depends on what level the band or artist is at, because there are a lot of factors that are going to play in here. First of all, are you a band? Because if you're a band, that's great. You've got 4 people in the band.
Mm.
Are you a touring band? Are you playing shows? Because nothing beats promotion like a show. Show is the
Yeah.
best form of promotion. Are you a solo artist? Because I'm a solo artist and I'm stuck. I can't play live.
Mm.
So I have to advertise. That's the only way, apart from that and making content, that works. So it's a lot of things. So you'd want to probably focus on your live shows, your hiring a PR company as well to handle
Mm.
like interviews, magazine articles, those kind of things. Facebook advertising as well, or Instagram advertising. And again, it depends where you are in your journey as a musician. If you're just starting out, probably don't need to spend or think as much about that as
Hmm.
other things like honing your craft, making sure you're good at your instrument,
Hmm.
getting your songs down. Like those are the, like, if you first work on your music,
Yeah.
that's the most important thing, is to get your music to a point where the ads will actually work.
Hmm.
Because if your music is not good, no amount of advertising is going to, you know at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the advertising is just to push you to eyeballs, because there's so much noise online now.
Yeah.
And for smaller artists to break out, it's not always easy.
Hmm.
So there are going to be artists like a Bloodywood who are a genre defining,
Yeah.
like, unique sound that happens once every 1 million bands maybe, or 100,000 bands or something. It's not
Yeah.
every band. Anyone who tries to copy Bloodywood now is just an imitator. So
Correct.
unless you're coming out with something so unique and original,
Mm-hmm.
it's, and which is unfortunately most artists are not,
Mm-hmm.
they need to first hone their craft, their songwriting, and then say, okay, now this band of ours is a business, or this is a business, and how do I scale this business up?
Right.
That's the way you look at it. And then you're like, okay, let me allocate some money to advertising, let me allocate some money to, say, graphics, some money to going on tour, and how do we earn that back? So we have merch that's selling here to bring back some income. We start charging some kind of ticket for shows, all these
Mm-hmm.
things. So you have to sit and figure that out. And if you think of it like that, you are more likely to make sense of the mess.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, yeah, most musicians don't want to do that. In which case, find a friend who's trying to do an MBA or something, and give them this as a project.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, like,
Hmm.
because again, managers come to bands when there is already money being made, when they've built a name for themselves. When a manager looks at a band and says, I see potential to make money out of that.
Yeah.
You know, only when you have a manager who is like the sixth member of the band or something,
Yeah.
then they learn as they go with you. But like any manager who already knows how to make things happen, it's not going to come to you till you are at a point where they will actually be able to make money out of you. So yeah, you have to basically think of it as
Yeah.
a business and kind of set goals and
So looking at it as a business also means that everyone in there needs to be serious about the project. It's
yeah.
not for part timers so much.
I mean, again, every band is different. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some bands are just four or five people who want to get together, make music, and chill. Some of the bands are like one guy has an aspiration like me in my
Yeah.
band that
Yeah.
this is what I want to do with my life, kind of thing. And but I think what's more important is just that whoever's in the band has a conversation about this.
Mm.
That what is our ultimate goal as a band? What is everyone's personal goal with this band? And I think when you have that talked about in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
or at least somewhere down the line, you have a more clear picture of where the band is going to go. Because if one guy is like, oh, this is my weekend hobby because I'm an MBA earning 4 lakhs a month, I'm not going to give that up for trying to make 20,000-30,000 rupees in a band a month or something
Yeah.
like that. And one guy's like, no, this is my dream and I want to do this only. And
Mhm.
you'll split,
Yeah.
and it'll be worse later when because I've had that, like I want to do something but band members are not there, and it's just frustration keeps building up because you're so invested in this but they're not,
Yeah.
and you can't blame the other person. Everyone's got a different goal in their life, but you'll be better off if you know right from the start where the other person's coming from.
Hmm. So speaking of band members sticking together, what makes a band stick together or doesn't?
So I think for me it's very different because I conceptualized the band.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I am forming this band, I will do it one way or another. No matter who comes or goes, this is my band and I'm going to keep the band going.
Yeah.
So when you have that kind of an attitude, you're always going to be having a revolving door of members. It's
Mm-hmm.
very unlikely that you will find people who'll stick around, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to if you are like five friends in college who are like, let's form a band.
Mm.
Because and you're friends first and bandmates later. It's like a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
It's different when you're friends first and then bandmates, and it's different when you're bandmates first and then friends later.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dynamic is different. So in my case, I mean, the most lessons I learned were early on in the band because I was a young idiot. So I didn't really have a lot of experience dealing with people, how to manage people's emotions or my own, or
Mm.
even just simple things like I was like, oh, this is my band, I'm writing everything. Like I didn't understand that process of communicating and how are you guys feeling about this? Do you want to contribute to this?
Mm.
I was like, no, this is my band, my songs, you play. Like it was like that. And as well
Uh-huh.
as once everyone quit, I was like, okay, this doesn't work like this.
Mm.
Then when we reformed in 2004 with new members, then they sat with me and they said, listen, we don't want to play the old songs, we want to write new songs and we want to write them together. Then I was like, okay, cool.
Mm.
Communication, ठीक है. But then we've had fallouts with different members over different things. So I mean, some stuff you can sort of you just can't, like, it's just, I mean, if the other person thinks of something in a certain way
Mm-hmm.
and they're not willing to listen to you or believe you or whatever, you can't do anything about it.
I mean, this is assuming the economics are not part of the
Yeah, the
conversation.
economics have barely been a part of the conversation ever because everyone knows that metal bands don't make money. So they know they're not going to make money when they
Yeah.
come in. But at some point, they realize that either they don't have the same desire as they did when they started,
Mm-hmm.
or they want to. Because if you want to play your instrument as a career, you probably can't play in a metal band because you can't commit time. You're booked for all your Bollywood shows, and it's even for me to tell a musician who's playing in the band, like, hey, we've booked a show now, you got an offer of 30,000-40,000 bucks, you please leave that because you committed here first.
Yeah.
Obviously you should because you've committed, but
Yeah.
it feels bad, like, to just ask someone, like, to do that.
Mm.
So yeah, all those things come in the way. I guess it's just how you deal with people, and there's no formula here, no shortcut. Some people are naturally good with other people. They know how to handle situations. Some people have to learn from mistakes they make over time.
Yeah. And
But
some
drama,
people just
yeah.
don't learn.
No, and drama is a part of
Yeah.
human nature, whether it's your
Yeah.
family drama, your drama with your partner, or drama with, the society members. Like, human beings are very different, and there's always conflict because somebody's, not cool.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the scene. According to you, what's been the scene's evolution like? Like, how much of it have you seen, and what's kind of like the arc being like?
Well, I could write a book about this because it's about
Please do.
23 years of being a
Mm.
part of the scene. I mean, I guess the biggest change is the fact that we went from a scene dominated by cover bands
Mm-hmm.
to bands forming to write their own music,
Yeah.
to bands putting out albums, EPs, singles, CDs, music videos.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of all this back in the day, like a Millennium had an
Yeah.
album,
Yeah.
they put out a music video, loosely rock and roll, industry rock machine.
Yeah.
Um,
But what about metal bands before you had started? Were there any?
there were many. There was Millennium in Bangalore. There was Dying Embrace. There was Postmark in Manipur or Manipal somewhere. I can't remember now.
Manipur,
Probably,
probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
or Mizoram. I don't know.
Ah, okay.
I haven't followed the geography of the most of the bands, but there were a bunch of bands. There was a small scene that was there. There was these Freedom Jams, Raz Rhino, and all the music that was not Bollywood and not jazz
Mm-hmm.
was all kind of together. So the rock, metal, alternative was all kind of
Yeah.
part of one indie scene, and it was a lot of cover bands. Mostly bands would get together to jam on their favorite songs, and like even my drum teacher's band Naked Earth, they would do like 90 out of 20 songs, like 18 would be covers, and they throw two originals in somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Scepter, who had just started
Yeah.
as well, they were doing all Megadeth, Metallica covers. So there was a lot of covers happening. Few bands were doing originals here and there, but there was no real recording and releasing albums. Like, that was not the goal of most bands that formed.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you went to a college competition, it would all be covers.
Hmm.
So I think it was when we started, like, there was DR, PDV, Morticide, Fate, and the original movement in Bangalore. I think there was Cryptos, Threnody, Mind Snare.
Hmm.
That original movement started somewhere in the late 90s, 2000s, when DR was just coming up. And then later, by I think around 2007 8, it was known that now if someone is forming a band, they're forming a band to write their own music. They're
Yeah.
not forming a band to play their favorite covers. And what's happened is, obviously, the scene has split now.
Hmm.
The till as late as 2010, everything was still bunched together.
Hmm.
But once the EDM started to come up in the local scene, then that they started to be like, okay, this is all the EDM here. There is your alternative space here. There's your
Mm-hmm.
punk there. Your
Hmm.
metal is here, and everything kind of sort of separated a lot more.
Hmm.
And today, like, you have hip hop, which has also had a huge sort of popularity as a movement. And there's a in the electronica space, there are like sub scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a whole scene of like singer songwriters that came up somewhere in the middle and stuck around. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and even like we came full circle with like suddenly tribute gigs being a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
and now tribute gigs are their own thing, and those bands are their own sort of little scene there.
Yeah.
So there's been that evolution, I think. In terms of industry, it's become more organized, more equipment, more infrastructure,
Hmm.
at least in the major cities.
Yeah.
There's still not a lot in the smaller cities. It's growing slowly. Like, the main thing is our culture is not. This is not our culture. Like,
Correct.
the idea of going to a concert is a very Western thing.
Yeah.
In India, that is, and it's a very privileged person's thing.
Hmm.
So that's the reason, like, you also, I mean, there's a very complex ecosystem if you actually get into the nitty gritties of this.
Hmm.
Is that you see mostly privileged people doing things like going to a concert, a comedy show. Your average Indian is not doing that.
Yeah.
Your auto driver, your plumber, your electricians, these people are not going to ever get into this. That's why
Yeah.
hip hop has had so much growth, because it breaks those privilege barriers,
Yeah.
because you need nothing other than your voice.
Yeah.
Like, if even if some kid in a slum was to listen to a metal or a rock song, their access is so limited.
Yeah.
They can't get their hands on a guitar or a drum set. It's like you can't.
Yeah.
So that all those things are things I started noticing in the scene, which is why you'll see that your venues also are these posh Blue Frogs,
Yeah.
hard rock cafes with expensive drink and food, because the audience that comes is privileged. Now metal has not had that, because metal has largely remained a young college kid phase. So
Engineering, especially.
yeah, engineering, whatever, junior college. So even though it is people from the privileged class, they are sort of doing the thing their parents don't want them to. So they don't have the disposable income, which is why all your more ear friendly music, which can be played in the Blue Frog, always does better. They can do more, they can tour more, because they're now catering to 40-year-olds who are making lakhs, and they can afford those expensive tickets and things like that, which is why you'll see your Avyals packing out venues, your Raghu Dikshit project, your Indian Ocean. They
Yeah.
can they appeal to that demographic. Metal still is that college kid coming, so they $500 they somehow manage. Like $500 today is like what $100 was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's why metal has largely still remained a college kid thing. And I mean, there are, again, it's grown a bit, but not the same way the rest of the scene has.
Yeah.
Like, there are more metal bands today, definitely, but the audience has not grown at the same rate.
Yeah.
So
And do you think like some of the audience has dropped off?
Of course, it is like it is quite a bit of a phase for a lot of people. And again, this is because of our culture. You're realizing these are all privileged people who come from privileged backgrounds. They go work in white collar jobs.
Yeah.
Or is that white collar is not the correct collar?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're hanging out with people and going and having 600 rupee cocktails for dinner and all with their friends, and they can't really relate that metal lifestyle to that. So they may still listen to the music, but they're not really coming out for concerts. They're probably like every now and then listen to it. They're not living the lifestyle, wearing the clothes, putting posters in their house. You'll see most people who listen to metal have nice middle class or privileged
Yeah.
person's house with like paintings and all decor done up and all. So it's very different. Like, abroad, metal is the music of everybody, the working class and truck drivers and
Yeah.
electricians. Like, it's across the spectrum, which it is not over here. You find a little bit of that here in the Northeast, and that is mainly because of Christianity.
Yeah.
So wherever you have a Christian sort of stronghold, there's an ability to give Western music a push, because they all sort of speak some form of English.
Yeah.
Even if they're not English speaking, there is some hymns or whatever, and they'll have a church band or whatever. So
Yeah.
the they're not alien to the sort of instrumentation and the sound and all. So they're a little more connected to that, I feel. So yeah, that's, I don't know, we started out with the
Metal scene.
metal scene, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why also in the Northeast you will find a lot more metal listeners.
Yeah.
But again, then there's the income is not always there. So that's the other problem, then the financial aspect. So basically, metal is still a hobby for most people. We have some oldies in the scene, as I would call them, few regular faces, but otherwise the rest of the majority of the crowd is constantly revolving every 5 years or so,
Right.
which is why the audience hasn't grown the same way.
What if you had to put a ballpark number for metal audience that shows up for shows and
So again, because metal is also got within it so many subgenres. Not all metalheads are going to come out for a modern metal band. Not all metalheads are going to come out for a death metal band.
yeah.
But if you look at the numbers, your Bangalore open air pulls about 2,000 people. I think that's a good estimate of the kind of crowd you have. Most of your shows in Bombay, Bangalore, indoor shows will cap at 500 people.
Yeah. But that do you think that's also got to do with the venue capacity?
Very little actually.
Okay.
Like, if it was the venue capacity, you would pack 500 every time. 500 happens only for certain shows, certain bands, certain things.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely, yeah, the audience has not grown at the same rate as.
I remember one DR show where Blue Frog, I think it was, where the audience was so jam packed, it was like a local train. And people were going out for air after every two
It sounds like
songs.
Bajao B69 actually.
Probably.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's been a weird sort of skewing of things, because if you look at all, a lot of people came just because of a show rather than of the because of the band. Because if you look at all the old shows, we were all playing to like 5,000 people at iRock, minimum 5,000 people. You play 5,000 people at maybe Weekender also. Um, but that number has never, if we did a opener show, we would not pull 5,000 people. No Indian metal band would pull 5,000 people for a show. Like I said, Bangalore Open Air is pulling only 2,000 people, you know.
And
Um,
this is bands in India,
in India.
not the international
No,
acts, right?
Indian
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
Like, even if you look at, if I look at the sort of audience turnouts over the years, like when we were doing Resurrection and all in 2004,
Uh-huh.
there used to be more people there, and that dropped every year despite whichever band happened, because the audience shifted, it changed. Like, technically we should have been playing 100 capacity venues, then going up to 200, 300, 500. By now, all the BM, Scribe, DR, old bands should have been able to pull 1,000 people in every city. We can't. We cannot even sell 100 t-shirts, most bands. You know, like, even if you see Gutslet, who's touring relentlessly, they're pulling in 200 to 50 people a show, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to be the limit in India for a very long time. The only band that I think is going to probably change that number is a Bloody Wood. And again,
Bloodywood,
like I
yeah.
said, they are an anomaly. They are not the norm.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but even they actually packed international venues before they packed Indian venues.
Correct. That was going to be my next question is what's your experience been like with international tours?
Well, good and bad. Most of it has been, I mean, because it's an experience, you're just enjoying it and you're having the best time. We've had the pleasure of playing, big festivals, so there you get to play to fairly big crowds. But we also played at big festivals where we only played to like 100, people, because we're in the middle of the day, or we were announced last minute, or anything, any number of reasons. But it's very different there, the scene. There you can actually like kind of chart your growth and see that, like, because for us, when we play in London now, or we play in the UK, we actually see people come out for us, same faces. So when we played Bloodstock in 2018, that was our last gig there. Like, we packed that full tent, people came out to see us, we sold out all our merch, and we actually felt like, yeah, after 20 years, this feels like it's worth it. Whereas here it's more like, how many people will come? Oh shit, 100 people came, 150 came,
Yeah.
you know. And there it's very more DIY. It's like you drive yourself from venue to venue if you're playing small ones. I mean, we've played most of our shows that we have sort of headlined in clubs. We've played to 15 to 30 people. That's been it. And we've also supported some bands. So, like, the whole experience has been great, but it's something you need to just keep doing like every year and constantly building it up and growing, and. But it's very difficult.
Right. What are the choke points?
Oh, just getting booked, because you're one of like a gazillion bands in the world that wants to play there, right?
Right.
In Europe, whether it's booking a tour, whether it's playing a festival.
Is it true that some festivals charge the band for a slot?
Probably, but like I was just going to say that. So now, for example, if I want to play like 30 days in Europe with a bigger band, most of the time those slots they're called buy-on slots. So you need about 10 to 15,000 euros to you have to pay to play. So again, every deal is different. So there are some deals, like we got offered one show. It was a 40-day tour. We would have had to pay 600 euros every single day.
Oh,
And what we would get for that is we would be on the bus with the other bands.
okay.
So that would basically be where we stay and everything. And we get paid nothing to play.
Mm.
Uh, and we'd get our merch, obviously.
Mm.
But even if we did 10 days, that's 6,000 euros. We would not be able to sell 600 euros worth of merch every night.
Hmm.
So we would not break even,
Yeah.
and we'd be in spending all that money, and we'd also need flights, visas, other offers have been like, okay, you bring yourself to every show and you pay 250 euros to play.
Hmm.
So
Is it just me or this seems like it's upside down?
it is upside down,
Mm.
but it's also like, so we also got an offer in 2012 where we were supposed to play with the band.
Mm-hmm.
We were told, yeah, so you will get paid 250 euros to play each
Mm.
show,
Okay.
which is correct. You get paid to play,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be on the nightliner with the headliner and the other two bands. And
Mm.
all four bands are going to split the cost of the bus and the crew and everything.
Right.
So you'll share a tour manager, sound engineer, everything will be there,
Mm.
but you're splitting the cost equally, all
Mm-hmm.
four bands.
Okay.
So that was coming out to about 12,500 euros. And what we
Hmm.
would have been paid, counting all the shows together, would have been some 6,500 euros. So we were going to lose 6,000 euros despite being paid.
And what about merch and
Yeah, we would get to sell our merch, but again,
Mhm.
like 6,000,
6,000?
it's you're
Yeah.
losing 6,000 euros, and then over that
Mm.
we have flights from India plus visa,
Mm-hmm.
all that. So we would have definitely lost. We had, in fact, we had calculated it was going to cost us 8 lakhs, and we were all going to take a loan of 1.5 lakhs each to play.
That's always a bad idea.
But luckily, I mean, not
Mm.
luckily, but basically that tour didn't happen, so we never had
Mm-hmm.
to do any of that. The band just said they don't want a tour, so they
Mm.
canned the whole thing. But yeah, that's
Right.
what the reality is to actually get out in Europe. Unless, of course, you have, unless you're like Gutslit,
Mm-hmm.
who have luckily met the right people, made friends, and they four bands went out together,
Mm-hmm.
and they sell a ton of merch and they break even.
Yeah.
So like we
But even after that, they're only breaking even.
yeah, pretty much, because you, as an Indian band, you have a cost from your flight tickets and visa,
Yeah.
which for four members also is a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and with the visa thing, back at least in the past 10 years, there have been multiple counts of the visa getting shows getting booked, but visa getting rejected.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's just, I mean, this is just your the price you pay for having an Indian passport. Yeah, if you want to go on a holiday also to the UK or France or anywhere in
Mm-hmm.
Europe, you have to give 6 month bank statement, IT statement, return. Like they take your whole life. You have to go and show them, and like
Mm.
then you get a visa. So it's the same for being in a band. You have to go and give all that paperwork, and hopefully you'll get it. So we had our visa rejected. We lost a lakh and 20,000 in 2011. We applied for the UK visa
Mm-hmm.
for Sonosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and we were sitting and watching the live stream of Sonosphere when our visas came, and all were rejected because we didn't have £1,000 in our bank account for 3 months before the application. I did and
Oh.
Mephisto did, but
Mm.
the other three guys didn't. So three of their visas were rejected. Mine was rejected because I didn't attest my bank statement.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like
What very random things these are.
yeah, so like for the UK, at least at that point, you needed to
Mm.
get something called a certificate of sponsorship,
Mm-hmm.
which used to cost £40 per person. This has
Mm.
to be given to you by an A-listed company in the UK.
Right.
So, and that company has to accept liability for you.
Hmm.
If they don't accept liability, then you need £1,000 in your bank account for 3 months prior to leaving. This is a
Hmm.
work permit. So all the visas, even America work permit is so expensive. It's a lot of headache to get a visa for any most of these countries.
Hmm.
So yeah, we just did and unfortunately got rejected and all that money went. Luckily we didn't book flights because we were like we'll wait for the visa to book the flight.
Ah. Yeah, good call. But how many of the struggles that good, consistent artists are facing have got nothing to do with music, musicality, professionalism, nothing. It's got
Boy.
it's got to do with something entirely
Yeah.
out of your hands.
Yeah, it's never the music. Music is subjective at the end of the day. So if
Right.
you're at a reasonable level of skill and you've been around long enough, you will put up a good live show. You'll have good songs, and you'll
Right.
be fairly competent at what you do.
Yeah. So the success of a lot of Western artists perhaps have got nothing to do with them being musically superior. Um,
I mean, look, it's their playground basically.
yeah.
Like it's their like,
Correct. Yeah.
you know, and of course, there for we are not seeing the thousands of bands that don't make it.
Hmm.
It's like definitely the bands that are making it big are making great music. That's the first thing.
Hmm.
But yes, they are also putting in the work of touring. They are getting the right sort of management or finding success through a label.
But they have a very strong passport.
The passport, yeah. So in terms of being able to like just pick up and go to a country and play a show, yeah, definitely
Hmm.
that helps. That takes a lot. The currency value being equal or
Hmm.
similar makes a big difference.
Hmm.
All those things, yes, 100%.
Yeah. What would you like to see change or get better with time, with regards to all the challenges you've touched upon so far?
Me personally or in general
In
for.
general, of
I
course.
mean, obviously what I would love for to happen in India is to actually reach a point where, you can actually have a proper touring circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's already there, like bands are touring, but like, I mean, being able to reach all parts of India in a much more systematic, organized way,
Mm-hmm.
having more venues that are properly equipped for live gigs. And if we can have that, I think then we are looking at least being able to make a living out of the music in India.
Yeah.
Like being able to do 20, 30 cities in India would be amazing. Like
Hmm.
it would be incredible. Right now you can probably do, if you push it, you can do 15
Hmm.
maybe, but that's also a stretch and nobody does
What?
it.
Which are the strong top five or top seven?
I mean, you'd have
Hmm.
Bombay, Bangalore,
Hmm.
Delhi, Hyderabad now,
Yeah.
maybe Chennai,
Yeah.
Guwahati, Shillong,
Mm-hmm.
um,
This is more from a metal point of
Kolkata.
view.
No,
Yeah.
in general.
In general.
Like that's the thing. If you look at all the indie artists, also see where they're touring.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing, yeah, some of the more like. In fact, it's the stand-up comedy and the hip hop artists that you can look at and see where are they going. That they are
Yeah.
the ones who are going to open it up for us actually now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, stand-up comedy only needs a mic, and hip hop
Yeah.
needs like a decent system and a mic as well.
Yeah. And
But
still people are lip syncing.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
also weddings. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
weddings are going to, if they happen in smaller cities at the same scale at which they're happening here, and they start
Mm-hmm.
calling artists, because a lot of the Bollywood artists are playing weddings. That's where they make all their money.
Yeah.
10, 12 lakhs, 20, 30, 40, 50 lakhs a show. Like the amounts are
Yeah.
staggering.
Yeah.
So once that happens, you will see infrastructure in all the smaller cities and towns also. Whether it comes first for the wedding or the comedy show or whatever, all that stuff is going to pave the way for metal eventually, maybe
Mm.
100, 200 years from now. But it will happen, hopefully. Yeah, it's not a quick thing. I mean, if the earth survives that much, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more people encouraged to pay for music, to
Mm-hmm.
value music, because that's something we don't do here.
Mm-hmm.
Buy merch, and of course for Indian artists to have it easier going abroad,
Mm.
and and just generally the pay to play industry to kind of disappear, and to actually pick artists that are uh, good and that fit well, and have them on board.
Mm.
I mean, it's an idealistic thing, but and I know it's not a realistic thing, because at the end of the day, filters are going to come in some way or the other in some form.
Yeah.
If it's not a 600 euro per show fee, it's going to be something else.
Hmm.
So there are many different ways to view this, but yeah, I'd hope for that.
Right. Wow. Okay. Tell me about venues and music festivals. How have they evolved, and how much preference or allocation does metal get in all this?
So festivals, obviously, we didn't have anything other than a GIR, an IROC, and an
Yeah.
IIT's Mood Indigo.
Yeah.
And now we are on some other level of festivals. Again, not counting just metal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, I think, your Zero Festival where there's camping and people are
Mm.
paying like a lakh for a experience there. So there
Yeah.
is money, and that's why I said this is all privileged people's
Correct.
activities. So you are going to see a lot of money being pumped in. You got Lollapalooza in
Hmm.
Bombay. You've got Weekend. You've got. I mean, I don't even know. Like, but it's huge. The evolution is insane. Like from almost no festivals to all kinds of festivals. Now even
In how
your
much time span would you say this has happened?
10 years, like
Really, from
to
2012?
2007 or 8 is when Weekender started, and
Uh-huh.
like basically around 2010, say things have just started blowing up.
Hmm.
You've got your sunburns and this and
Hmm.
that and more coming. The amount of activity that has happened, like in terms of just art and music related or theater related things coming in, it's blown up exponentially.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been a change. In terms of venues, it's been a little less hard, a little less easy to actually see venues survive.
Hmm.
Most venues have come and shut down
Yeah.
over time. But now, when you have such big entities like Impresario who handle social
Hmm.
in the picture, you're going to see them actually, I think, be the leaders in creating venues.
Hmm.
Because it's all good to have like one off standalone venues. But when
Hmm.
it's on a corporate level like this,
Yeah.
like it's rare you'll see a McDonald's shut down. So
Hmm.
social will become the McDonald's of the young people's nightlife, and part of that will be having that one anti-social in almost every city once they
Yeah.
expand. So we will have an infrastructure eventually, um, but yeah, like, and that's the thing. Then that will set the standard for other venues to follow, and hopefully they will all be able to sustain their business.
Hmm. But still, for metal, the scale of the sound that's needed.
No,
Uh,
if it's a venue like antisocial, yeah, you need to get a little bit of equipment maybe here and there. But
hmm.
again, you have like uh, companies like Furtados that have expanded, and
Yeah.
they went from one retail shop to like 12 across the country, and
Hmm.
they have dealers and partners they work with. So there's definitely like the thing is it's all here in the country now.
Hmm.
It's just about where it's going to be available. We get more equipment today in India than you did before, you know.
Yeah.
Like things like when I started, you couldn't buy a double bass pedal in India. You'd
Yeah.
have to like, there was maybe you could convince Gladnick to make one or Viking percussion somewhere. You'd have to go and get it custom built. But yeah, it
Right.
was not a thing. Now every second drummer who starts drumming wants to buy a double
Wants to
pedal.
buy a
So
double bass. Yeah. Yeah. You used to be, you would have to earn your place
yeah.
to deserve a double bass pedal. So, what about Mumbai specifically, where venues, appear, disappear? Of course, barring the socials.
Yeah.
Um, is it getting better or worse?
No, it's the same really. I mean, and this is probably in other cities also. It's like you
Hmm.
had Raz Rhino back in the day. Then Raz shut. Then we found Marine Center in Vashi.
Oh.
We went there, organized some shows. That also went somewhere. Then these were venues in Bombay were not venues. They were
Uh-huh.
just places where you could do your show. They were not
Hmm.
designed for live gigs. None of them were designed for live gigs.
That, okay.
But
Yeah.
metal bands would not get anywhere else to play. So we had to find a place that says, okay, we give you this space, you can
Hmm.
charge your tickets, and whatever we get these sales. So we
Yeah.
had Marimba Lounge
Yeah.
in Andheri where I booked for Resurrection in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was all glass and dance tables. We made them move everything
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, so we need a minimum guarantee of 15,000 rupees bar sales. We're like, okay,
Hmm.
fine, we did it. And believe it or not, even with 200 people there in that small little Andheri place, they didn't sell 15,000 rupees worth of alcohol. And we had
Hmm.
to pay them. But yeah, and venue wise, like we found Bayview, which is again a room. Bajao also it was not really a venue. It was just that they made it a venue, but it was a dance bar that was full of reflections and sweat on the walls, and a
Yeah.
bathroom that looked like a murder stall.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, metal has just survived. Like the thing is, there will, no matter what happens to venues in the city, metal bands will find a corner where they can organize something.
Hmm.
Like venues not working in the city has more to do with high rents, bad business.
Yeah.
Like there are even today, like restaurants want, most of them are restaurants. Most of them are restaurants,
Correct.
bars that want music as an add-on.
Mm-hmm.
They're not concert places. So that's a very different scene.
Yeah.
So the business, if the business cannot sustain itself, it shuts down.
Mm.
You know.
Do you think a lot of these unplugged trios and singer-songwriter acts and ukulele people uh, have gotten more business because of the restaurant and the music in the background sort of model?
Yeah, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, first of all, it's cheaper
Mm-hmm.
to do as well.
Yeah.
But there's always been an industry, right? Like of music that is not band centric or not
Correct.
artistic centric. It is like your Woodside Inn has all these cover bands come in. These two girls
Mm-hmm.
will come and they'll sing popular songs.
Mm-hmm.
Olive Garden, Olive, sorry, not Olive Garden, Olive in town used to have
Mm.
Wilburn, our sound guy. I walked into Olive one day and I'm seeing him on the guitar singing, and he has keyboard player with him. Like, Wilburn, you play also? He's like, yeah, man, I play. So there are a lot of these musicians, cruise ship musicians, hotel
Mm-hmm.
musicians.
Yeah.
All these things exist. So
Yeah, yeah.
restaurants are just trying to capitalize on the hip stuff now.
Hmm.
And you can see the evolution. Most of them have moved to these house gigs now. So the ones who want to play to a more music audience,
Yeah.
they've shifted to house gigs, or
Yeah.
they are at an artist level enough that people are coming to that venue to see them.
Hmm.
But there are also people who are just background music.
Hmm.
It depends on the artist. So I went for one of my aunt's 80th birthday, and this guy is playing some Bollywood songs, and some of the people at the party are singing on his mic and all. And later he comes
Yeah.
up to me, he's like, "You remember me? I recorded at your studio." I'm like, "Oh, really? Like you do this now?" But like, yeah, nobody cared. Like he was playing his stuff, doing his thing, but like half the people are drinking, eating. Nobody's paying attention there.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's a gig. That's a gig. Like everyone, I think I've realized everyone plays music for different reasons.
Uh-huh.
Some people just want to play. Some people are okay being the background noise. Some people are
Mm.
just like, imagine on a cruise ship if that's your job.
Yeah.
You're just playing 3 hour sets, and I mean, nobody cares half the time. Or some drunk person will go, "Ah, play this song,
Yeah.
please." Yeah. So, like, you make your peace with it, I guess.
Hmm.
If you're an artist, you won't play those gigs.
Mm. Yeah. Different incentives.
And that's why I said, like, restaurants are also, and bars also, like, sometimes they don't, they want a music background, but
Mm.
they've got an artist,
Mm.
and that's the big disconnect.
Yeah. And then sometimes police gets involved.
Oh,
Or police gets involved nonetheless after a certain hour. So
thankfully, I have never been in this situation. I have only heard the horror stories.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, people are entitled. People are very shitty. Their behavior is not good. We've had close things, but nothing's ever gotten.
That doesn't quite happen so often in for
Metal gigs, it
yeah.
won't.
Yeah.
I mean, you just throw that person in the mosh pit anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I've heard. I mean, I've read horror stories from musicians about things, and I guess it's just unfortunate that, I mean, anyone in the service industry is a sort of receiving end of people's tantrums. People
Yeah.
are entitled. They're like, I've paid so much money. This is my right to do, when it's really not.
Hmm.
You know. And that's just how, I mean, unless it's like trying to get people to stop spitting pan on the streets.
Yeah.
It's like don't take a massive.
But I mean, that always sounded to me a little bit like a programming error. Like,
Yeah.
that's your audience. Why are you getting this artist? If you're not willing to play the referee,
Yeah.
if a situation arises.
And that's the thing, right? Like, I don't think like a lot of restaurants don't realize what they're doing. They're just like, music chahiye, like, and they're like, "Arey, this artist." And that's the thing, right? Like, artists keep saying, "Oh, stop playing for free," and blah blah blah. And here's the thing: the market. If you have a value, and somebody asks you to play for free, you just say no. And if someone else plays for free, that's okay, because they don't value themselves, or they're young, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to value yourself, and that's so, and keep it at that. Like, because if you're worth something, and you're going to a restaurant, and the restaurant's like, "Okay, I have to pay you 25,000," they will actually then look at the research, and they will check and see why you're worth 25,000.
Yeah.
And if they don't book you, that's fine. You've saved yourself one, probably shitty gig.
Hmm. That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do to sleep at night.
Okay. How do you engage with fans and followers on some practical advice for musicians? How do you engage with fans and followers on social media as well as offline? Like, are there any do's and don'ts?
No, just treat everyone like a normal human being. You be appreciative. Obviously, if someone's getting too close or creepy or whatever, it's different. For women, of course, I cannot speak because you all have way more headaches to deal with than the male
Let's
musicians
not
do.
get into that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even want to look at your others inbox. That is, but yeah, if you just chat with them as they are normal people, I guess. Be just be polite and hey, thank you, bus finished.
Okay. And how do you deal with feedback, trolls, criticism?
So obviously in my early days I was a hot-headed metalhead, so I would argue and fight, and it would be the the name calling up and down. And all. Now it's just they don't really bother with it. I think it's best to ignore it. Like unless someone's being like proactively like coming and commenting on every status of yours or trying like to do things, because we've had offline stuff that's like next level. Like we've had people throw stones, bottles, this that at shows. We had these guys come and give out pamphlets when Sam Dunn was shooting his documentary at Rise Rhino. So they gave out pamphlets to his crew saying, oh, this is not the real Indian metal scene, you should be filming these bands instead, and they put
Oh.
some names down. We've had hecklers at shows, IROCs. We've had, yeah, just all sorts of experiences. So
So, how do you keep going? I mean, it's clearly discouraging, at least for a
yeah,
minute.
you realize like that's their problem, not yours. Like we played IROCs, and I mean they were just drunk people who were not there to see us. They were there to see whatever favorite cover band, and they throw stuff at you. It's not a reflection on your music. It's a reflection on their behavior. Hecklers, I mean, it's just disgruntled fans of some other band that feels like their band should have been there. And I mean, it's not a bearing on me. It's like their
Yeah.
inability to understand that there is space for everyone in the scene. you know so yeah, you just got to realize that it's not on you.
What's the most heartening as well as disheartening scene that you have seen in your years of performing live and doing various kinds of roles in the music scene?
Like with the band,
Anything really, but in the music industry.
I mean, the most heartening thing for us obviously is playing a good show. And I think one of our favorite shows was 2010 at Inferno Festival in Norway. That was our first ever international gig, and we just got such a lovely reception over there. And people loved the music. They were singing the lyrics there, and that was our
Nice.
first time there. So we were really stoked. Got to meet all our metal idols, and even if it was just to take a picture or whatever, it was such a good experience. Um, Also, a couple of shows that we did, the UK Bloodstock Festival, the last one, was just amazing. The whole tent was packed out, and we sold all our merch, and everyone just loved our set so much. So, like, those moments are kind of what you really live for. And I think disheartening, though, was obviously winning the Metal Hammer Golden God Award in the UK and coming back to India and playing at the Rolling Stone Metal Awards and getting heckled and booed. And obviously, at the Sam Dunn filming, having those people come and give out flyers saying this is not the Indian metal scene, go check out these bands. Generally, those are the moments that we've are the terrible memories, so to speak.
So the essentially the heartening bit was being surprised by the most unexpected audience receiving you really well, and then the disheartening bit was that in home territory,
Yeah.
small mindedness.
Yeah, so that's
Essentially.
kind of why Bombay has never like felt like home for us. Like that's something I feel that I've never had. Like I mean, we've had one or two good shows in Bombay where it felt like this is what it should be all the time, but it's never been. So Bombay's never really felt like home for DR. It's always been like, yeah, just one more city.
What would you say to a younger version of yourself now after you've had this much experience?
Practice guitar more, probably.
What else? Like how what were the avoidable errors?
So here I have a different perspective on things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not somebody who regrets things that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that everything that did happen is what has kind of led me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really for sure look back and say, oh, had I done this thing, I would have had a better result.
Yeah.
May have gotten worse, may have gotten better. It's kind of hard to say,
Mm.
you know. So I would obviously like just look back fondly on the past and enjoy the good memories. All the bad memories are what built the character, the cold exterior today. you know and it's all part of the journey. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just something like I know a lot of people look back and like, oh, I could have done this better, I should have done this. I just like, yeah, you know what, that's all. You can see the evolution in my journey, you can see the story there, and that's what makes the person that's here today. And
Hmm.
without that, I don't know what I would be here doing here today. So
Lovely. Okay, funniest gig incident.
um probably when I went to Dhanbad and said, how are you doing, Jalandhar?
Why?
Because we had back to back gigs.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure there are funnier things also. Oh, of course. I think when we went to Imphal
Mm-hmm.
and Daniel is playing a solo, and obviously there's no security on stage. Nothing. This guy comes on stage, takes Daniel's hand off the guitar, takes a selfie with him.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, some crazy, crazy stage moments.
Things you tell your younger self pursuing metal in India.
I
But
mean, what would I tell myself? I could go back and try and fix every mistake. Okay, the first album, make sure you record the guitars in stereo, not in mono.
that's useful.
Make sure that you don't sing on the album, or if you're singing on the album, get somebody to correct your vocals, or just hire a producer, look for someone maybe and
Hmm.
work with them. Don't get so depressed about gig turnouts. Don't invest so much of yourself in other people. you know Focus on, there's so many things, like it's 20 years, right? Like there are a
Mm.
million mistakes there.
Yeah.
Like, and again, every mistake is a learning thing. Like, yeah, don't print 1,000 behemoth box sets. you know
Hmm.
but yeah, it all had to be done, like to get here I had to make every mistake to learn from
Hmm.
it. And that's the thing, there was nothing when I started. There was no YouTube for every second thing.
Yeah.
Like, you would have to go and find some weird website where you'd get some lessons somewhere which you barely understood because there's no one to explain half the things to you, and you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just Google it then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just I mean, if we had the same resources that we had today, I think, yeah, definitely, maybe what took me 20 years to achieve would have happened in 10 years.
Mm.
Maybe I would have practiced more guitar. I don't know. Maybe I'd have a better sounding first album. But yeah, I mean,
Where is DR headed?
so honestly, I
Hmm.
don't know, because right now the band is just me and Aditya, the new guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
We put out a sort of EP album in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't touched the guitar in a year to write a
Oh,
song. In fact, the DR guitar I don't think I've touched in more than a year.
how come?
I don't know. It's just I have been very focused on the food stuff now, because
Mm-hmm.
my channel also took a very big hit in terms of viewership and finances. So I'm trying to fix that now.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a another food channel called Headbanger Eats, where I do restaurant reviews and things. And I'm working on that and I'm trying to make a living now, because
Hmm.
I live and I pay rent. So
Hmm.
life is a little different. And music is, well, while it did give me joy, now I think it is mostly a reminder of a lot of not very happy things.
Oh my God, are you? Are you like leaving or something?
No, I'm not. I'm just not doing it the same way I was before. Like I said, I literally 20 plus years of my life, the sole purpose of my existence was DR and making music. And at some point, I lost the motivation to continue that. That's why in 2018 we did our farewell show in Bombay and Delhi, and then we did one
Yeah.
tour in 2019. I haven't seen a stage since then. Finding band members difficult, almost
Yeah.
impossible sometimes, and I just don't feel like I have the bandwidth to do what I did earlier, like send hundreds of emails every year to European festivals, try and book shows, wait years on agents, get offers like 600 euros a day, and realize I'd never have the money to do that. And even if I was at some point able to make a living with DR, able to earn money from it and take a paycheck home, I don't think it would ever be able to afford the lifestyle that I have today,
Yeah.
because it's just not that lucrative a thing, and I'm not going to be a Metallica, you know. So I made my peace with that a few years ago. Let music just be that expensive hobby that takes all your money on the side, and focus on the food where I can actually make a decent living and have a decent life for myself.
And that's a passion as well.
Yeah. And I'll make music when I feel like it, and if things happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. You know, like it's. And again, when you've been doing something for 20 years and you don't see the growth or you don't have the success you hope that you have, you have to find a way to deal with it. And I think this is probably my way of dealing with it. It's just not to put as much effort of myself into that. So I did put out an album this year. It's not like I didn't. I put out an
Yeah.
album, but yeah, I just like, I don't know if the sales are good. I don't know if I'm going to recover the money I put into it. And so I'm like, yeah, just let things happen and we'll see where it goes.
When you say sales, what do you mean by that?
CD sales, merch sales, streaming payouts, Bandcamp
Are,
sales.
are stream Bandcamp sales okay, but are streaming numbers good?
They're not terrible, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a lot of streaming, you can make some reasonable amount of money from it. Like if you've got like 100,000 monthly listeners, you could be making $1,000 a month maybe.
You are an artist who essentially onboarded your fans to the streaming. It's not that the platform took you to.
It's a bit of both. Like I don't think it
Yeah.
works independently for any artist. It's a
Yeah.
combination of everything that you do. And streaming is the platforms are multiple, so everyone is consuming music somewhere or the other. Whether they're doing it on Amazon Prime or Spotify or YouTube, there's payout coming from everywhere. Bandcamp, buying physical copies, vinyl, anything. All of that is available. So it's not that I have to move my fans to Spotify. My fans can consume my music wherever.
But yeah, streaming platforms generally.
Yeah. So it'll totally come out to some amount, whether that's $500 a month, $1,000 a month, 1,500. It depends on how big you are, right?
Yeah,
So the more numbers you have, the more you can actually make out of it.
right. Let's talk about family support throughout your career.
Yeah. So I've always been very lucky that I've had like nothing but the most supportive parents ever, and family, because that includes my brother also. Yeah, no issues what kind of music I listened to, what bands I wanted to play in. I think the only thing my parents were not very happy about was me dropping out of college, and understandably so, because they wanted me to earn a living. And
Yeah.
I had to convince them that, okay, look, I want to pursue a career in sound engineering. I can join a studio. I'll be able to make so much money. And
Where did you do your sound engineering from?
I joined a studio
Ah,
and I learned on the job. So I
Yeah.
worked for without pay for 1 year or so. And then I started getting paid like a base salary. So I convinced them. I was very good at convincing my parents that I needed like to, because there was a sound engineering institute in Chennai, SAE.
yeah.
And I was like, I can't go there because how will the band continue then if I'm there? So I said, no, I'll just join a studio and work. And I did that. But they've been really supportive. So my mom unfortunately lost her hearing before I became a musician. So she's never had a chance to hear my music.
Oh,
But despite that, she still came for my first show. She put her hearing aid off because it was too loud.
yeah.
But she was there for the first show. So was my dad. And yeah, pretty much anything I wanted to do in the house, whether it's have band practice there, have bands stay over when they were performing in Bombay. That was all cool. I mean, when I was just getting into metal, I had literally written "fuck your god" on my cupboard, and they were
Mm.
cool with that. So they were like very chill. And my
Mm.
brother also. I mean, um he we shared a room. So when I got a drum kit, he decided to leave the room and sleep in the hall.
Mm.
So he also made a lot of sacrifices
You're the
for,
older
yeah.
sibling. Yeah.
So he literally lived without a room for a while. And then we
Mm.
finally did up a house in a way where they made him a little train compartment like room for himself.
Yes.
So yeah, I was very, very grateful that I've had a lot of support from my family, and as well as Dipti, my wife, who's
Mm.
been with me 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been around and always supported everything I've done. So yeah, I'm honestly like very, very lucky.
Mm. Where do you think you'd be able to, do so much were it not been the case?
No, if I didn't have the support of my parents, I would have been not been able to do this, because I mean, we live in Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
The rents here are insane.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to pay rent and live somewhere or leave my parents' house, I'd be busy working whatever basic job I could as a college dropout to make ends meet.
Uh-huh.
I would not have the money to play music. And I mentioned this earlier, like
Yeah,
playing metal is a privileged person's it's like a privileged
definitely.
person's thing, because you need to have that kind of income or family money to be able to buy even your basic guitar and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, without my family, I would not be able to do any of this for sure.
Mm. What would you say to families of people, of upcoming musicians or even existing musicians, metal or not?
Yes, if you're not
Mm.
playing metal, there is a lot more potential. Like if you get a Bollywood gig, you could be sorted for
Yeah.
a long time. If you want to teach music, if you want to,
Mm.
play in a wedding band, those are all different kinds of musical avenues that are there. Maybe you want to be a
Yeah.
composer for, for like background scores.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, yeah, you can rebel against your family, go out and start working. But it's always going to be easier if you have family support.
Yeah.
Because you have just the place to stay is such a big thing, especially if you are in a city like Mumbai, where it's like really
Yeah.
expensive to stay. And now you can work remotely as well. So if you're
Yeah.
not in Bombay, you can stay wherever you are and work remotely till you're making enough money to actually move to a bigger city.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, I mean, if you're a parent, always support your children. Like, even if they want to be
Mm.
a musician, if they want to be a
Yeah.
metal musician, tell them to get a job and make music on the side. That's fair enough, because there's no
Mm.
money in metal. But yeah,
Mm.
that's my advice for anyone.
Do you think there will be money in metal?
200 years.
You have interacted with a lot of international metal musicians as well. Uh, is the scene better in developed countries?
Yeah, I mean, there's more potential there, right? Because
Mm.
it's part of their culture.
Mm.
It's a common activity, going to a concert and drinking beer and
Mm.
listening to your favorite band, going to festivals,
Mm.
camping. So you have a larger population there that listens to that music, that
Mm.
understands that culture, that music. They pay for the music because they understand that's things they were brought up doing, like going to a
Mm.
concert, buying a CD, whatever. It's part of their
Yeah.
culture. So it's definitely more lucrative if you are able to make it sort of up in the top bands.
Mm.
But it's also important to remember that, like, even big bands like Lamb of God,
Yeah.
they were like construction workers.
Mm.
That was their job.
Mm.
So it's not like Indian
Mm.
listeners who are coming from relatively privileged backgrounds
Yeah. Yeah.
and have a lifestyle to live up to. So it is also
Mm.
then easier for you in the West, if you come from a not so wealthy background, that even if you're
Mm.
making reasonable money for
Mm.
that uh, lifestyle, you are able to afford it.
Right.
Like here, I was discussing this on one of my podcast episodes, that
Mm-hmm.
why are all the Indian metal musicians going to Bollywood?
Mm.
Because they are from families where they have two cars, they have maids. I mean, and that's the lifestyle they're going to want for themselves and their family. Like, if you want a kid today, the
Yeah.
education you're looking 12 to 50 lakhs a year for kids' educations,
Yeah.
and you're never going to make that money playing metal. Like, even if you're a metal band, if you make it in a successful metal band and you tour abroad,
Mm.
to make that level of like 3-4 lakh of rupees a month, you need to be like way higher up on the thing. I mean, it's not easy at all. And by the time it takes you to get there, you will have had to sacrifice whatever life you wanted here with that. So
Yeah.
that's also one of the reasons why I don't think like that's possible.